Part 1. Getting started. Have you ever looked at someone's life and thought, how did they get there? What's their secret? Most people search for one big moment, one lucky break, one perfect plan. But what if the real secret isn't a single giant leap at all? What if it's something so small, so quiet, that most people walk right past it every single day? Centuries ago, in Japan, people already understood this truth, and they captured it in one simple sentence. Today, we're going to learn that proverb, hear a story that brings it to life, and pick up some useful English along the way. Let's discover its wisdom together. Part 2. Introduce the proverb. The proverb we're exploring today comes from Japan. Shinghao Shinghao Chinmujimureba Santo Naru. Literal translation: even dust, if it piles up, becomes a mountain. In natural English, we could say, small efforts, repeated over time, add up to something huge. At first, this sounds almost too simple. Dust is nothing. A single speck of dust weighs almost nothing and means almost nothing. But the proverb isn't talking about one speck. It's talking about what happens when that speck is joined by another and another and another, day after day, until one day, without anyone noticing the exact moment it happened, there's a mountain standing where there used to be empty ground. This idea has deep roots in Japanese culture, which has long valued patience, discipline, and quiet persistence over flashy, quick success. You can see the same spirit in traditional arts like calligraphy, tea ceremony, and martial arts, where mastery comes only after years of repeating small, humble actions. The proverb reminds people that greatness is rarely a single dramatic event. It's usually the result of thousands of unglamorous, everyday choices that nobody was watching. Why does this still matter today? Because we live in a world obsessed with instant results. Fast weight loss, get-rich-quick schemes, 10-day transformations. We are constantly told that if something doesn't work immediately, it doesn't work at all. This proverb pushes back against that idea. It tells us that consistency, not intensity, is what actually builds a mountain, and that truth hasn't changed in hundreds of years. Let's see what this looks like in a real life, through the story of a woman named Aiko. Part 3. The story. Aiko Tanaka stood in front of the mirror in her small apartment in Osaka, and she did something she hadn't done in a long time. She really looked at herself. Not a quick glance while brushing her teeth. A real, honest look. She was 34 years old. She worked long hours at a marketing company, ate convenience store meals between meetings, and told herself every single night, tomorrow, I'll start taking care of myself. Tomorrow had been coming for almost 2 years, and it had never actually arrived. That evening, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an old university friend, May, inviting her to a reunion in 9 months, the 10th anniversary of their graduation. Aiko stared at the message for a long time. 9 months. She thought about how she wanted to feel when she walked into that reunion. Not thinner, exactly. Though yes, she wanted that too, but strong. Proud. Like someone who had stopped waiting for tomorrow. Okay, she whispered to her reflection. Today, the first morning, she woke up 45 minutes earlier than usual. She didn't have gym clothes, so she exercised in an old t-shirt and shorts, right there in her living room, following a free video on her phone. It was clumsy. She was out of breath after 10 minutes. Her legs shook when she tried to hold a simple plank. This is embarrassing, she muttered, collapsing onto the floor. But she didn't stop. The next day, she did it again. And the day after that, Aiko also changed the way she ate. She started planning her meals instead of grabbing whatever was closest. More vegetables, more protein, smaller portions of the fried and sugary foods she used to eat without thinking. It wasn't always easy on her wallet or her schedule. Some weeks she had to say no to eating out with coworkers so she could cook at home instead. It felt like a small sacrifice almost every day. For the first month, nothing seemed to change. She stepped on the scale and saw barely any difference. Her clothes fit exactly the same. One night, exhausted after a 12-hour workday, she sat on her kitchen floor and cried. "What's even the point?" she said out loud to no one. 1 hour a day, and for what? A number that doesn't move. Her phone buzzed again. It was May. "How's the new you going?" May had written, half joking. Aiko almost typed, "I quit." Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. But then she remembered something her grandmother used to say when Aiko was a little girl, frustrated that her garden wasn't growing fast enough. Asterisk. Chiri imo sumariba yama teneru. Asterisk. Dust piled up becomes a mountain. Her grandmother had explained it simply. You don't see the mountain grow, Aiko-chan. You only see the dust. But the mountain is still growing. Aiko put her phone down without replying to May. Instead, she laced up her shoes and did her workout, even though it was almost midnight and every part of her wanted to skip it. Months 2 and 3 were the hardest. The excitement of starting something new had completely worn off, and the results still weren't dramatic enough to feel like proof that it was working. There were mornings she hit snooze 3 times before finally forcing herself up. There were nights she stood in front of the refrigerator, telling herself that one bad meal wouldn't matter, and then reminding herself that one good choice, repeated, was the entire point. She joined an online community of people with similar goals, mostly for accountability. One evening, a stranger in the group posted, 6 months in, and I finally see it. Aiko felt a small, quiet spark of hope she hadn't let herself feel yet. By month 4, something shifted. Not in the mirror, in her body, during the workouts themselves. The plank that used to destroy her in 10 seconds now lasted a full minute. She could climb the 4 flights of stairs to her apartment without stopping to catch her breath. Her uniform at work fit slightly looser at the waist. "It's working," she whispered one morning, almost afraid to believe it. Then, in month 6, disaster struck. She sprained her ankle badly during a weekend hike, and her doctor told her no intense exercise for 3 weeks. Aiko sat on her couch, ankle wrapped in ice, feeling the old fear crawl back into her chest. "I'm going to lose everything I built," she told May on the phone, her voice cracking. "Aiko," May said gently, "you didn't build a sandcastle. You built a mountain. A mountain doesn't disappear because of 3 weeks of rain." Aiko laughed through her tears. It was almost exactly what her grandmother used to say. During those 3 weeks, she couldn't do her usual workout, so instead she focused completely on her eating and did gentle stretching and short walks once her doctor allowed it. She refused to let 3 weeks erase 6 months. When her ankle healed, she went back to her routine, a little rusty, but not starting from zero. Never from zero again. By month 9, the night of the reunion finally arrived. Aiko stood in front of her mirror one more time, in a dress she hadn't been able to zip up 9 months earlier. She looked at herself, not with the harsh, disappointed eyes from that first night, but with something closer to respect. At the reunion, May hugged her tightly. "Look at you," she said, stepping back in amazement. "What did you do?" Aiko smiled, thinking of all those unglamorous mornings nobody had seen. The sore muscles, the meals cooked alone in a small kitchen, the tears on the kitchen floor, the sprained ankle, the thousands of tiny choices that had piled up, one on top of another. until they became something enormous. Honestly, Aiko said, I just refused to skip one more day. That's it. That's the whole secret. She didn't tell May about the dust, but she thought about her grandmother's words, and for the first time, she truly understood them, not as a saying, but as something she had lived, one small day at a time. Part 4, Moral Lesson. Let's break down what actually happened in Aiko's story. In the beginning, Aiko wanted instant results. She stepped on the scale after 1 month, saw almost nothing, and felt like giving up completely. This is the exact trap the proverb warns us about. We expect to see the mountain forming, when in reality, all we ever see is the dust. The results are happening beneath the surface, in ways we can't measure day to day. Why did she eventually succeed? Not because she found a perfect method, and not because one single day changed everything. She succeeded because she kept adding, one honest choice after another. Even during the months when nothing seemed to be working, and even after a setback that could have completely stopped her. This reflects the proverb perfectly.塵も積もれば山となるisn't really about weight, or fitness, or any one specific goal. It's about the relationship between small, invisible actions and enormous, visible outcomes. The mountain doesn't need one giant piece of dust. It needs thousands of ordinary ones, arriving faithfully, day after day. This applies directly to modern life, far beyond exercise. Think about learning a language, like the English you're building right now, one video, one new word at a time. Think about saving money, building a business, repairing a relationship, or developing a skill. In almost every meaningful area of life, the biggest results come from unremarkable, repeated effort, not from one dramatic event. Here are some questions worth sitting with. Have you ever quit something right before it was about to work, simply because you couldn't see progress yet? Is there a mountain you're currently building, one small day at a time, even if it doesn't feel like much right now? What would change if you trusted the process the way Aiko eventually did, believing the mountain was growing, even when all you could see was dust? Part 5, English Lesson. Here are 12 important words and phrases from the story, with simple definitions and example sentences. 1. Convenience, noun. The quality of being easy or useful. She stopped choosing convenience over her health. 1. Consistency, noun. Doing something the same way, regularly, over time. 1. Collapse, verb. To fall down suddenly, often from exhaustion. She collapsed onto the floor after 10 minutes. 1. Embarrassing, adjective. Causing feelings of shame or awkwardness. This is embarrassing, she muttered. 1. Exhausted, adjective. Extremely tired. Exhausted after a 12-hour workday. She sat on the floor. 1. Accountability, noun. Being responsible for your actions to others or yourself. She joined a group for accountability. 1. Sprain, verb/noun. To injure a joint by twisting it. She sprained her ankle during a hike. 1. Gently, adverb. In a soft, careful way. Aiko, May said gently. 1. Faithfully, adverb. In a loyal, dependable way, without failing. The dust arrives faithfully, day after day. 1. Amazement, noun. Great surprise or wonder. May stepped back in amazement. 1. Unglamorous, adjective. Not exciting or impressive looking. Nobody saw those unglamorous mornings. Quick practice asterisk. Try making one sentence using two of these words together, connected to your own life. For example, asterisk. I felt exhausted, but I refused to give up. Part 6. Conclusion. Today we learn the Japanese proverb塵も積もれば山to naru. Dust piled up becomes a mountain. Through Aiko's story, we saw that real change rarely comes from one dramatic moment. It comes from small, repeated, often invisible choices, the kind nobody applauds, but that quietly builds something enormous over time. So whatever mountain you're building right now, in English, in health, in life, trust the dust. If you enjoyed learning English through this proverb, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need this wisdom today. Until next time, keep learning English and keep collecting wisdom from around the world.